Right then guys, some of you might know what one of these is already. Obviously SOG, it's a pretty good brand. I've got a giant SOG. Now this is another gift from my darling wife. I chose it, she paid for it. The first thing, I don't like that. It's frightening, it's scary. Even though there's no way on earth you're going to get it unless you've got tiny little fingers, it's just enough to make me second guess where I'm putting my hand. Yes, I'm making tea again. I'll be back in a minute. Right, tea's on the brew. This is an original SOG Seal. This is an old blade, probably more than 13 years old now. It had serrations much like this one does, but I ground them off and then reprofiled it to get rid of them because, you know, at the time it was lovely, great look, it's got serrations on it, but it was basically an inch of the blade or an inch and a half of the blade it can't use. This one, which, as I said, I don't like this thing, so I tend to open it very gingerly, and if I recall, somewhere on one of my hands there's a scar which you probably wouldn't be able to see. Where I was gingerly opening this, I had my hand there. There it is. I don't know whether you guys can see that on the camera. I don't know whether I can focus this close, but there is a circular scar or a semicircular scar there. That was this knife that did it. Because when I first opened it, I saw that and I thought, oh, I don't want to put my hands there, and I ended up pulling it open like this, and as you can see, as the blade came out, be careful not to do it again, the serrations struck me across the finger. Oh, that's just reminded me of it. Anyway, it's quite a pretty little thing. Again, this camera really doesn't like focusing, so I'll try and keep it in focus. I reckon it's about there. It's quite a pretty little blade. It's got tiger stripes on it. Camo detail. This one's made in Taiwan. Apparently you can tell the difference between the ages of the blade because of where they're made. This is a Seal Pup Elite, to be precise. Now it's my intention to do to this what I've done to that. Now you've got to bear in mind, I don't actually have a bench sander, so I'm probably going to rig something up, because they did this one with an angle grinder with a flat disc in it, and you wouldn't believe how much time I spent with a Lansky sharpening system reprofiling this edge. This knife isn't perfect, it's very sharp from here to here and probably a little bit less sharp there, but at this point it's practically blunt, and at this point, I don't know whether you can see it again on the camera, when I flick the light on it, you can see there's an actual flat edge about 1/4 of an inch long there, and it took me probably a total of 6 hours to reprofile that. So what I'm going to do before I do this one, remove the serrations, I will set up some kind of, I'm going to buy myself a belt for a sander, for a belt sander, and I'm going to try and rig it up with a standard drill and a couple of pulleys and see if I can work out or fashion a way to get myself a more consistent angle when I'm sharpening, because as you can imagine, putting a hand grinder in a vise and then putting a bevel next to it that's set at 20 degrees and trying to grind and keep the knife at 20 degrees is very difficult indeed. But it is my intention to reprofile this and make it a slightly more useful knife, because like I say, the serrations, basically that's an inch and a half of that blade that's completely useless to me. It does have a very good saw on the back of it, if you don't mind sawing through tin cans and such. I've hardly used this blade, but I'll keep you updated as it goes. It's going to be a while before I even think about trying to set up some sort of a bodged belt sander, but I'm sure I can do it, so I'll keep you updated on that one.